Society says masculinity is toxic, that strength is dangerous, and leadership is oppressive. But what if the real crisis isn't strong men? It's absent ones. What if men were never designed to shrink back, chase approval, or numb themselves with pleasure? Men were created to reflect God's image, His strength, His order, His love. Real masculinity is not domination, it is responsibility. It begins with humility, recognizing that true strength is surrendered strength. A real man does not follow every impulse or bow to every trend. He disciplines his desires, controls his anger, and refuses to be ruled by lust or ego. He protects what is entrusted to him, not just physically, but spiritually. He stands between danger and his family. He provides not only materially, but faithfully, bringing prayer, integrity, and consistency into his home. And above all, he leads through sacrifice. Leadership is not about control, it is about dying to selfishness daily. It is choosing character over comfort, obedience over convenience, and purpose over pleasure. The world does not need louder voices or bigger egos. It needs men who are humble before God, unshaken by culture, disciplined in private, and courageous in public. That is strength. That is leadership. That is biblical manhood. Man was created with responsibility before romance, before companionship, before intimacy, before love stories. There was work, there was assignment, there was purpose. Biblical manhood does not begin with desire, it begins with duty. A man was entrusted with cultivation, protection, and stewardship long before he was given a partner. That order was intentional. Responsibility precedes relationship. The foundation of true masculinity is not control or domination, but care. Not ruling over, but watching over. Stewardship means recognizing that what is placed in your hands, your calling, your family, your influence, does not belong to you. It is entrusted to you. And a real man treats what is entrusted to him with vigilance, discipline, and humility. The collapse began not with aggression, but with silence. When the moment came to speak truth, to guard what was sacred, to confront deception, the man stood by quietly. Passivity, not power, opened the door to destruction. Since then, generations have repeated the same mistake, shrinking back when they should step forward, avoiding conflict when they are called to courage. Biblical manhood calls men back to their post, to speak when truth is threatened, to stand when others retreat, to protect what is sacred and lead with conviction. Because leadership is not about being louder or stronger than everyone else. It is about being responsible when it matters most. A real man walks humbly before God. That is where true strength begins. Not in dominance, not in ego, not in proving himself to the world, but in surrender. Micah 6:8 does not call a man to impress others. It calls him to walk humbly with his God. And humility is not weakness. It is power under control. Humility means understanding your limits without losing your confidence. It is the awareness that every breath, every ability, every opportunity is a gift. A humble man knows he is dust without God, yet he stands firm because he knows the one who upholds him. His security is not built on applause, wealth, or status, but on identity. He does not need to boast because he is already anchored. This kind of man listens before he speaks. He corrects without cruelty. He leads without arrogance. When he succeeds, he gives credit to God. When he fails, he takes responsibility. Humility gives him stability. It keeps him teachable, disciplined, and grounded when pride would otherwise destroy him. Strength without humility becomes tyranny. Confidence without surrender becomes rebellion. But when strength is submitted to God, it becomes unshakable. A humble man is not easily threatened, not easily offended, not easily swayed by trends or opinions. He bows before God so he can stand before the world. And that posture, surrendered yet steady, is the mark of a real man. A mature man does not live at the mercy of his impulses. He understands that unchecked lust, uncontrolled anger, and quiet greed can destroy everything he is called to build. While the world chants, "Follow your heart," he knows the heart is not always a trustworthy guide. Feelings shift, desires fluctuate, emotions rise and fall. but character must remain steady. True maturity is not measured by physical strength or bold words. It is revealed in self-control. A godly man does not deny that temptation exists. He prepares for it. He sets boundaries before he needs them. He chooses discipline in private so he can stand firm in public. When anger rises, he pauses instead of exploding. When lust whispers, he turns away instead of entertaining it. When greed tempts him with more, he remembers what truly matters. Mastery over self is one of the highest forms of strength. Anyone can react. Few can restrain themselves. Anyone can justify their emotions. Few can crucify them. A mature man understands that freedom is not the ability to do whatever he feels, but the power to choose what is right despite what he feels. He does not allow temporary desires to sabotage eternal purpose. He trains his mind, guards his eyes, disciplines his habits, and aligns his actions with conviction rather than craving. In doing so, he proves that he is not ruled by his passions, he rules them. And that is the mark of real strength. A man is called to be a shield for his family, not only in the physical sense, but in the spiritual and emotional realms as well. Protection is more than strength. It is awareness, courage, and responsibility. It means recognizing threats before they reach the people entrusted to him. It means refusing to be passive when something sacred is at risk. To protect is to step between danger and the ones you love, even when it is uncomfortable, unpopular, or costly. It requires vigilance. A man must guard the atmosphere of his home, the values shaping his children, and the influences entering his family's life. He cannot control the world outside, but he can take responsibility for what he allows inside. Protection may look like hard conversations, firm boundaries, or quiet sacrifices no one else sees. Spiritual protection is just as critical as physical safety. A man sets the tone through prayer, integrity, and example. He does not simply tell his family what is right, he models it. He stands firm in truth when compromise would be easier. He absorbs pressure so those he loves can flourish in peace. Failure to protect carries consequences. Silence in critical moments can open doors to harm. Passivity can allow confusion, fear, or destructive influences to take root. But when a man embraces his role as a shield, he creates security, stability, and strength for generations. True protection is not about control. It is about courageous, consistent presence. Provision is often misunderstood. It is not measured by luxury, status, or the size of a paycheck. True provision is rooted in faithfulness and obedience. A real man understands that his role is not simply to fund a lifestyle, but to cultivate stability, direction, and trust within his home. Yes, he works hard. Yes, he strives to meet practical needs, but provision goes deeper than income. It is about consistency. It is about showing up when it is inconvenient. It is about choosing long-term responsibility over short-term comfort. A faithful man does not disappear when pressure rises. He remains steady. He honors his commitments even when no one applauds him. More importantly, he brings faith into his home, not just food to the table. He sets a spiritual tone through prayer, integrity, and conviction. His family sees not only his effort, but his devotion. He listens for God's direction before making decisions. He teaches by example that trust in God outweighs fear of uncertainty. Obedience matters more than convenience. There will be moments when doing what is right costs time, comfort, or opportunity. But a man who prioritizes obedience over ease builds something far more valuable than wealth. He builds legacy. He demonstrates that provision is not about excess, but about stewardship. In the end, true provision creates security that money alone cannot buy. Peace, guidance, and a foundation rooted in faithfulness. True leadership is not built on control, intimidation, or pride. It is built on sacrifice. The world often defines leadership by authority, influence, or dominance. But biblical leadership turns that definition upside down. It is not about how many people serve you. It is about how many you are willing to serve. Just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, a man is called to lead through self-giving love. That kind of leadership costs something. It requires dying to selfish ambition, laying down ego, and choosing responsibility over recognition. A sacrificial leader does not demand respect. He earns it through consistency and integrity. Leading by sacrifice means showing up every day with the same character in private as in public. It means apologizing when wrong, forgiving when offended, and remaining steady when emotions fluctuate. It means absorbing pressure instead of transferring it. It means putting the needs of others before personal comfort. This kind of leadership is quiet but powerful. It does not rely on charisma or loud declarations. It is built through daily faithfulness, through small, unseen decisions that reflect conviction. A man who leads this way becomes an example worth following, not because he is perfect, but because he is committed. When leadership is rooted in sacrifice, it produces trust, it strengthens families, it shapes communities, and it reflects the heart of Christ. Love demonstrated not in words alone, but in action. Many desire the appearance of power, but few are willing to carry its weight. They want authority without accountability, influence without integrity, the crown without the cross. Yet real manhood has never been about image. It has always been about responsibility. Culture often defines a man by his income, his confidence, or his dominance. It celebrates the alpha personality, loud, assertive, untouchable. But strength without discipline becomes recklessness. Influence without character becomes corruption. Confidence without humility becomes pride. These are not marks of maturity. They are warning signs of instability. True manhood is forged in private long before it is displayed in public. It is built through discipline, choosing what is right over what is easy. It is shaped through repentance, the willingness to admit failure, change direction, and grow. It is sustained by humility, recognizing that no man is self-made and no success is achieved alone. Accountability is not a threat to strength, it is proof of it. A real man invites correction because he values growth more than ego. He understands that leadership requires transparency and that authority must be anchored in integrity. He does not run from responsibility when mistakes are exposed. He faces them. The crown means nothing if a man cannot bear the cross, the daily surrender of selfish ambition, pride, and comfort. Manhood is not about being superior to others. It is about mastering oneself, serving faithfully, and walking humbly. That is the strength that endures. Men are called to live in tension, not between weakness and strength, but in the balance of both. A mature man is gentle enough to weep and strong enough to fight. He is not hardened by pride nor softened by fear. He understands that true strength is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Compassion does not cancel courage. Tenderness does not eliminate toughness. In fact, the strongest men know when to show both. He is humble before God, yet unshakable before the world. His confidence does not come from ego, status, or applause, but from identity. Because he bows in private, he can stand firm in public. Because he surrenders to God, he is not easily pressured by culture. Trends may shift, opinions may change, but his foundation remains steady. This kind of balance begins on his knees. It begins with surrender, acknowledging that he cannot lead, protect, or provide apart from God's strength. Dependence is not weakness, it is alignment. A man who nurtures his spirit through prayer, discipline, and truth builds resilience from the inside out. From that inner strength flows responsibility. He guards what has been entrusted to him, his family, his influence, his calling. He leads with conviction, loves with consistency, and stands with courage. Balanced strength is not loud or reckless, it is steady, grounded, and faithful. And that is the mark of a complete man. The world does not need more influencers chasing attention. It needs men anchored in reverence. Platforms are loud, opinions are endless, and visibility is easy to chase. But what society truly lacks is not noise. It is conviction. It needs men who fear God more than they fear rejection. Men whose private devotion is greater than their public image. A man who fears God leads differently. He does not build his home on trends or emotions, but on truth. He understands that leadership begins at home, in the way he speaks, serves, forgives, and remains consistent. His family does not simply hear what he believes, they see it lived out daily. He creates an atmosphere of stability because his foundation is secure. Raising the next generation in faith is not accidental. It is intentional. It requires patience, discipline, and presence. A godly man teaches his children not only through instruction, but through example. He models prayer in uncertainty, integrity in pressure, and humility in success. His life becomes a living lesson of trust in God. When a man lives according to God's design, he becomes more than responsible. He becomes a testimony. His obedience reflects God's authority. His courage reflects God's strength. His faithfulness reflects God's character. And in a world desperate for direction, his life quietly declares that God is still sovereign, still present, and still worthy of reverence.